The Jets selfishly want him to play so they could change this narrative where suddenly everybody should be fired and they're a complete disaster. So can somebody point out the grown-ups and the responsible, level-headed thinkers in the Jets building? Because right now it seems like everybody's trying to save ass or prove those dissenting voices wrong, like Rodgers. Who is thinking clearly for the Jets?
Well, I thought Rodgers, all year long, I was saying Rodgers is the one guy in the building that I trust. Now I don't believe that he's the guy that is thinking clearly here because I believe Rodgers being selfish and that he wants to play. And, of course, later on today where he's on with McAfee, we'll find out. I'm assuming whether he's going to try to give it a go or not. But I get the sense, and I don't know, I'm just getting the sense here that the Jets organization, and when I say organization, I mean Joe Douglas, because I don't know Woody's involvement on a day-to-day basis, and I do know this. Robert Saleh's got no say in the matter. Like, you could tell by the way he addresses the media. Oh, I don't know. That's Aaron's call. And, Aaron. Like, bro, it's like, come on. You're embarrassing yourself. And again, nice guy, but you're not a real head coach. So, to me, it's Joe Douglas versus Aaron Rodgers. And how that's going to get divided would be Woody Johnson. No, I mean, he would be the one that's making that call. The Jets, if somebody there is competent, I'm talking to you, Joe Douglas, Aaron Rodgers does not see the football field again this year, and maybe not ever, but at the very least this year. That's the one guy, BT, I'm holding out hope. Joe Douglas would be my answer. I don't think Rodgers is thinking logical or sensical at this point.
I think you're probably right. Listen, I look at it two different ways. My selfish way, and when I sit down before I devour the scoongiel and the galamad and the boop and everything else, the shrimp and the scallops and the filet and all the other stuff that we're going to have on Christmas Eve, I want to watch Aaron Rodgers play, but that's me. That is me as a frustrated Jets fan who's been tormented again this year. I just want, a speck of joy for this football season. I'm not running the Jets. I'm not thinking about right now. I'm not the greatest interest of the Jets. I'm thinking about what's entertaining me on Christmas Eve before we eat and before we get ready for Santa. And that's okay because, I'm a fan and I'm a voice in sports like you are, but I'm not in charge of the ultimate direction of the Jets.
If you were, would you have him play?
If I was,
because I wanted to.
But this is where it gets complicated. If I'm Woody Johnson, no. If I'm Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas, yes. Because think about this. I'm not saying that this will happen, but if this did happen, if he plays, and I do think he's going to play. I do think he's going to play. If he plays and he plays well and he puts up 2 touchdowns and they score 27 points, whatever, and they beat the Commanders and they win 2 of the final 3 games, they save a little face, then everybody that's on the hot seat right now, the coach, and that's why I put Woody over here.
Right.
You can't force him to sell. So the head coach and the owner, the head coach and the general manager, they need to change the way they are perceived. Joe Douglas has been here for a long time. In terms of results, he's done nothing. Nothing well. Robert Saleh has been here for a couple of years. In terms of results, he's absolutely a 0. So what they need to do, and it's the short-sighted move, so I understand why they would want Rodgers to play, but Woody's got to intervene. Somebody's got to think clearly for the future.
See, I don't think that Joe Douglas wants Rodgers to play. And I also don't believe, I don't know about you, I'm not evaluating Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh on 3 meaningless games if Aaron Rodgers comes back. I'm evaluating them on the body of work, and it hasn't been good enough. I've already made my mind up that the Jets' best move moving forward would be to clean house. And I mean everybody. Get them all out, hire a new GM, hire a new head coach that actually knows what he's doing, that has had some success, and draft a quarterback with your top 5 or whatever it is pick in the draft coming up this year. But for now, if I'm Joe Douglas and I'm trying to show Woody Johnson something, I make the best decision for the organization, and that is, to me, sitting Aaron Rodgers and not letting him dictate what goes on. There's no way he should ever set foot on the field this year with the injury that he suffered this year, especially in meaningless games.
877-337-6666. BT and Sound on the Fan. We'll do a little Yamamoto stuff a little later, but obviously a busy football day. Squeeze those Giants in there as well. We're inside of our Town Fair Tire studio. Friends at Town Fair remind you that you always get the guarantee lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. This is the danger. This is the danger when you allow people who are hanging by a thread who, let's face it, a lot of the Jets fan base wants big change. We said it yesterday. I would have fired Robert Saleh after that game. After the comments from him where he passed the buck after the comments from some of his players, which were damning in terms of effort, in terms of accountability, in terms of investment, in terms of engagement. That's the end of the road. They elected not to do it. That's fine. That's their team, not mine. I can just tell you what I'm thinking, what I would do if I owned the team. But there's a lot of smoke around this Jets team right now, and none of it's favorable. I mean, every ounce of analysis is biting, and it's all earned. So what they're doing is they have people now who are in charge of decisions that will really, really shape the direction of the team long after they're gone. I mean, let's face it. Does anybody think, even if you wouldn't fire Robert Saleh today or yesterday or tomorrow or even at the end of the season, does anybody think Robert Saleh is here in 3 years? Does anybody think that? So if that's the case, why are you allowing these impactful decisions, more so from Joe Douglas, who also hasn't accomplished anything in terms of wins and losses? It's a disastrous recipe. Self-preservation is dangerous, and they're in the process of doing that.
Yeah, but I don't see. That's where we disagree, is that I don't believe that they're going to do that. I think Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh don't want Rodgers to play. Like I said, Saleh's insignificant, sadly. Like, his voice doesn't really matter. It's probably Joe Douglas versus Rodgers, with Woody being the
mediator kind of thing?
like he's the one who ultimately could say, I'm with Joe, Aaron, you shouldn't play, you're not allowed to play. Or, Joe, I'm with Aaron, let him play. He wants to play, let him play.
Yep.
Because I mean, at least that's what I feel. And I've had enough of Aaron Rodgers, BT. I love the guy. Personally, I want to see him play. It makes no sense from the Jets' perspective to allow Aaron Rodgers to play. There's no reason to me, because I'm not judging Saleh and Douglas based on what Rodgers does. There's no good reason to have him on the football field other than Rodgers selfishly wanting to prove people wrong and say, hey, look at me, I did something you didn't think I could do. Maybe trying to save Hackett's ass as well, showing what the offense could do.
Yep.
But again, it's 3 meaningless games. So Joe Douglas, both guys to me, Douglas, Rodgers, are going to show what they're made of here with this decision. Who's in fact making it? I'm already eliminating Saleh because I know he doesn't have what it takes. Douglas, I still think, could be saved, even though I'd make a move on. I want to see how he handles this. The right way is to say, he'd come out and face the media and say, Aaron Rodgers isn't playing.
Yep.
That's my choice.
And that's not happening. Do you have any faith that that's going to happen? Now, maybe that happens behind closed doors. I don't think that's going to happen. And listen, I think that Joe's a man of conviction. I don't think he's telling Aaron Rodgers what to do at all. I honestly believe this is 100% Aaron Rodgers. They are tied into him forever. In terms of his, as long as he's here, they're beholden to everything that he demands. If he wants to play, he's playing. Woody's not telling him he shouldn't play. Saleh's certainly not doing it. Hackett's not doing it. I don't even think Joe Douglas will do it. Whatever Aaron Rodgers wants, he's going to get. And that's bad.
Which is why I think he needs to go away.
Well, I mean,
he shouldn't be running the organization.
But he should be playing quarterback when he's healthy. And that's where it gets delicate. And that's a bigger conversation. Not that we can't jump into it a little bit now, but I want to kind of stay on course, at least for this season. What really terrifies me as a Jet fan, there's 2 aspects. Number one, every motivation is selfish. Right now, every motivation is driven by proving people wrong or saving one's ass. Rodgers defying medicine, sticking it up the behinds of those naysayers, those people who just didn't think he could physically do it. And by the way, I'm okay with that, because that kind of motivation, that is fuel, that is oxygen for athletes. I can compartmentalize that. I actually absolve Aaron Rodgers. He wants to come back. I respect that. That's fine. But the onus is on the team to step in and intervene and say, I respect the hustle. You ain't playing. And I don't think that's going to happen, which is a massive problem, because everybody involved with the Jets is trying to save their job. And if you tried out Trevor Siemian this weekend against the Commanders and they lose 13-3, 17-6, which they probably will because they won't score, and I think the entire team, especially on defense, has now quit, then I honestly believe that even Woody, who probably doesn't want to fire Saleh and Joe Douglas, would. So that's where we are. That's dangerous territory.
I just think this is all about Rodgers making a decision on his own. How is the team going to benefit at all from Aaron Rodgers playing if that's what he decides to do? Which, by the way, seems like that's going to be the case. And there's proof even last week. Do you think Robert Saleh or Joe Douglas wanted to see Aaron Rodgers running around playing linebacker in practice?
I mean, why doesn't somebody have the stones to say, hey, number 8, let's...
That's what I'm saying.
Let's dial it down here, buddy. We're good.
That's the point.
What?
It's about him. Saleh's the head coach.
Come on.
You can't allow that to happen.
It's an amateur move.
And that's why it comes down. Take him out of the equation because there's pointless to have a head coach that does nothing. He's not, in fact, a head coach. So it's Joe Douglas versus Robert Saleh versus Aaron Rodgers. And we're going to find out today who's making the call. Once Aaron Rodgers speaks at 1 o'clock, we'll find out who's leading this organization. And if it's Aaron Rodgers, then I firmly believe everybody should go. If Rodgers says, you know what, I'm not going to play, talked it over with the team, then I know that Joe Douglas said, look, Aaron, we love you. We respect your effort.
Yeah.
You're not playing. And then I'd at least have some faith in Joe Douglas.
That's well said. 877-337-6666. This next day or two when he's able to be medically cleared or not medically cleared, this is going to tell you all you need to know about the Jets. I mean, we already know what we know. This will cement it further if they just, swallow reason for self-preservation purposes. Ray's up first. Babylon, BT, and Sal. What's happening, Ray? How are you?
Good morning, fellas. Sal nailed it. Selfish. That's the only reason why Aaron Rodgers would come back. This is not the same team that started this season. We were full of hope and promise of having a successful or at least a relevant season. Now, the fans are beat up. The players are beat up. Everyone's demoralized.
Yep.
There is literally no upshot to Rodgers coming back other than to stoke his ego.
Well,
and for what?
Yep.
What does he have to prove?
Well, let me throw this at you. And I don't think that you're entirely wrong. I see it a little different from Sal. But how about morale? I mean, there's something to be said for a team that is dying a very slow and very public death. And, maybe Aaron Rodgers, in his mind, coming back justifies trying to, reinvigorate Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner and Breece Hall and the younger players who are going to hopefully be a big part of better days.
I can't see that happening. They're so beat up. Yeah. They're demoralized. I mean, look, let's just pack it in for the season. Everyone's tired. The players are tired. God damn it, I'm tired. Okay? and let's just have hope for the future. And here's one point I want to make. It's the modern NFL. Each player is an independent contractor. They're not looking 5 years hence. They're looking at my contract, my fantasy league numbers, the analysts who want to play all this fantasy football and look at my great numbers. That's what everyone's playing for. But now everyone's shot, and I think we're all shot.
All right, I got you there, Ray. I listen. The one thing that I'll say, and I know it's borderline irresponsible and fully irresponsible for many. I don't quite subscribe to that because of the timeline and where we are. What is the worst case scenario Rodgers plays Christmas Eve? He gets hurt, right?
Right.
Okay. Let's say he re-injures his Achilles. He'll be fine for week 1. Let's say he blows out his ACL.
Do we know that for sure?
Yeah. He will be. Let's say he blows out his ACL. I've already done the math on this. He'll be fine for week 1. No,
but not about the math. What about at his age, trying to come back that soon and rupturing it again? Like, he's doing something that's never been done before, so the recovery, if he got hurt again, I'm assuming, is something that you can't compare to anything that was done before.
Yeah, but there's still enough time. I mean, even if it's the ACL, if it's a labrum, if it's some sort of clavicle, God forbid, I mean, outside of the absolute worst.
Right.
He's going to be ready for week 1. I mean, just to give you something else to consider.
Yeah, maybe the worst case scenario is he's healthy and or stays healthy, and they still get their brains beat in, and they can't move the football. Then what? You get a double down next year and say, "Oh, you know what? We're just a wide receiver away, or one healthy AVT, healthy lineman away," and you're not. To me, this is selfish, though, by Rodgers. What good could come of it? You think morale's going to be built up? Are you going to feel any differently about Robert Saleh or even Joe Douglas or Nathaniel Hackett?
No.
Okay.
But I'll feel a little more confident that some of these young stars might actually want to stay and are enjoying being a Jet again. I mean, if this keeps up, Garrett Wilson's going to say, "Get me out of here, man."
But here's the problem.
Why would he want to stay?
Well, that's why they need a new head coach and a new regime, because you can't have them, the selling point be a 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers who hasn't played all year.
Greg's in Rahway. Greg, BT, and Sal. What's happening, Greg? How are you?
Good morning, fellas. My opinion is they got to figure out about Joe Douglas, what they're going to do with him. And for Aaron Rodgers, I just let him play the next last 3 games. Give something back to the fans. They've been going through this grueling season all year. And he needs to play, show something. Yeah. He's getting paid.
The only problem with that is, Greg, the old expression is when you think like a fan, you're going to be a fan. You can't do something just to placate the fans.
I don't know what to say. I mean,
the guy had an injury that should end it for the year. The Jets are officially eliminated. Why the hell should he come back? For what? Even if they win 3 games in a row, you're going to be excited as a fan? Matter of fact, to do you more harm, you're better off at this point losing out and getting a higher draft pick.
I'll tell you what, if they come back and they win and they score, I will actually feel better. I will. I'll be honest with you. If I see, one of these final 3 games with Rodgers and Garrett Wilson goes 9 for 147 with a touchdown, which opens up the running game, and Brees Hall, if he's healthy, has a 107-yard game, and Ruckert scores the touch. I'd feel,
Here's the thing.
Crazy as that is.
You saw what Zach could do with this team. You then said, well, I need to see something else. You saw what Tim Boyle could do with this team. Then you saw Zach again actually have some success, and then again fail, and then Simeon take over and look awful. Do you really believe that Aaron Rodgers is the only missing piece? Do you think
No, I don't.
Are we supposed to believe that Rodgers comes back at this point off of that injury at his age? Do we really believe that all of a sudden the switch is going to be flipped and he's going to be zinging it all over the place? Wilson's going to be a stud. The Jets are going to put up 20-plus points, 25, whatever it is, for the final 3 games.
No, but I'm still curious. Pragmatically, I sense that you're right. Emotionally, throw me a bone. I'm desperate.
Throw me a freaking bone. Yeah.
All right, BT and Sal here, 877-337-6666. So